Hi, this is Arthur Chan from SSON, and I'm here today with Albert Olley, the CEO of New South Wales Businesslink. Welcome, Albert.
Thank you.
So let's jump straight into the questions. We have 5 questions today. So firstly, I guess, Albert, before we delve into some of the main issues we are going to discuss at the conference, could you give us a little rundown about where Businesslink is at in terms of its shared services? And can you give us a little idea of the scales, functions, maturity, and so forth?
Yep, sure can. Businesslink is a shared service provider within New South Wales public sector. We are an organisation of about 850 staff spread across 6 locations in New South Wales. We, as an organisation, our clients have about 22,000 staff that we support over about 850 locations statewide. From a service perspective, our agent clients provide service to approximately 250,000 of the most vulnerable people in New South Wales. As a business, a shared service business, the range of products we provide cover all aspects of finance, HR, IT, as well as property and facility management, records management, and projects both for developing IT systems, building and renovating properties and office facilities. In relation to the type and nature of services we provide, we do a mixture of both transactional and advisory services. So we, as well as just straight processing, provide advice back on the way to go in relation to each of the products we service. At the moment, we're in the process of growing up the value chain from being a manager of services for the client to a provider of managed services. And whilst it's a small, subtle change, it's a major move for us up the value chain to actually provide the services rather than just manage them. From a maturity perspective, Businesslink has gone through the process of amalgamating functions and staff together as we created into stabilising and consolidating our functions. But we're about to go back into another round of consolidation as our clients transfer similar functions that still exist in their organisation over to us. And as part of doing that next round of consolidation, we're also stepping into another round of standardisation and automation and moving into the optimisation phase of the maturity. We also have moved up the maturity curve on the client relationship side, aware that the clients are now seeing us as a provider of valued services and working with us to achieve standardisation across all clients rather than looking at their own individual needs, which is providing great opportunities for us to move to the next round of cost and processing efficiencies.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So a lot of changes there, I see. So in your 2010 annual report, you noted that the changes to DHS have provided impetus for new reforms, and that you're refocusing on the way we are working with our client agencies. Now, so can you explain how this restructure has unleashed new life into Businesslink, and what kind of overall strategies, I guess, are you guys now geared towards?
Yep. As I mentioned previously, our client relationships have moved significantly and matured to the point where we're all working together to actively standardise processes and solutions across the board. What the changes within the Department of Human Services have enabled us to do is accelerate that level of change and push even further with the change in that we are able to achieve common focus and have standardisation and common governance across human services as well as ourselves to let the program achieve wider benefits and get the benefits probably at a faster pace than we would have been able to negotiating with individual clients. When you couple the changes within human services with the reform agenda that New South Wales Government has adopted through the blueprint for corporate and shared services that it released early in 2010, the two initiatives together have actually provided a real and solid mandate to reform and accelerate what the shared service provision of services and shared service model is. In that context, the strategies that have been adopted and the changes that we're gearing around are in a number of areas. largely in common and standardised solutions for all clients. So where we've had variances before, looking to standardise and get common outcomes, providing clarity in responsibilities and roles between what the purchaser responsibility and the provider responsibilities are, and that within Department of Human Services and Businesslink we are working very strongly on a purchaser-provider relationship. The consolidation of functions, so strategy around simplifying and consolidating functions so that there's only one provider of the service, and that's agreed right across all clients and ourselves. A strategy to achieve separation and clarity in who sets strategy and direction versus who actually delivers the service to meet the strategy and provides the advisory and transactional services. And the final aspect that we're focusing on in the change and reform agenda that the Department of Human Services changes have allowed us to drive is to really focus on client engagement. Whilst we've had a degree of client engagement, this is now putting in place a very strong client engagement model, looking at what are the client's strategic directions, their needs, their purchasing trends, to be able to modify our processes and products and modify their consumption behaviour to actually get the best value out of the services we provide.
Definitely, so there's a lot of changes here. Now that it's 2011, what are your more, I guess, specific goals for the next 12 months?
Specific goals for the next 2011, next 12 months are probably in 5 key areas. First one is in staff and cultural development within the organisation. We've had a focus on building our people, building our capabilities of our people to empower them to lead the organisation and drive change and be innovative. And so continuing to build that, build leadership skills, role, subject matter skills, personal capabilities, as well as focusing on competencies in customer service and innovation. So from a staff perspective, to get the best results and effectiveness we can, we really need the staff empowered and equipped, and that's our number one area of focus. We're also looking at organisation structure and our operating model, and looking to move ourselves from a functionally aligned organisation to a service operating model, and that comes with some significant change to the way we work, to the way our people relate, and that will drive a large level of change and clarity for roles and responsibility, but will also help with the customer engagement on providing clear direction for them on who is doing what and how we work with them to drive improvement and change. That from a structure perspective, coupling that to an operating model change on getting a single point of contact and getting our delivery channel strategy right, so we are maximising self-service and telephone-based services, resolving as much of the service and fulfilment requests at first point of contact. Between the structure and the operating model, we will get a large range of efficiencies and operating improvements in there. Third area of strategic focus in the goals is around service management and getting a service management culture and capability built through all product lines and all services in the organisation. We've been delivering good service, but in a bespoke manner, and we're looking as part of our staff development to really build a service management culture and capabilities through the organisation. Fourth goal is in conjunction with Department of Human Services in driving the first phase of standardisation and automation of end-to-end services and processes through, and using that as a vehicle to move to the next level of efficiency and cost of service. And the final goal, which is a core underpinning one, is an achievement of our efficiency improvement targets and cost savings, because effectively every dollar that we save in providing services is a dollar that can be released back to providing services to the broader New South Wales community.
So public, definitely. Now, so in your session at the conference, you were talking about how important it is to have, I guess, a effective governance framework in place when embarking on a shared services journey. So now, what kind of tips can you give to the audience and to other organizations in managing competing priorities, and what kind of lessons, I guess, have you learned?
In starting this answer, I'd highlight that there's probably no silver bullets in this situation. It is a horses for courses situation, and it's, from my perspective, it's about delivering and managing relationships and how this business is run and the clients engage versus a model of fulfilling and taking orders. I think for me, governance is a key aspect in all areas of our life, whether it's personal or work, and having clarity around who the decision makers are, who are influencers, and what stakeholders you've got to manage helps you navigate the way you can get to outcomes and achieve what you're trying to achieve most effectively and efficiently. That, for mine, has a couple of elements to it. One is around understanding the various personalities that you're working with, their preferences, the agendas that they're working for, navigating through that journey to actually ensure that everyone in the governance framework is operating on a win-win environment rather than a win-loss, particularly in the public sector environment for shared services. It's a partnership, mutual arrangement to get benefit for the overall outcome, and being able to achieve a win-win outcome really helps the business on both sides remain positive and drive forward. For mine, I think there are a couple of key elements in the actual governance arrangement which are tips and which help achieve good governance outcomes and good outcomes for the shared services. They, for me, are clarity on the mandate of the shared service, so that from a client perspective, a purchaser perspective, they understand what it is they're buying off the shared service, and from the shared service organisation, they have real clarity on what it is that they are supposed to be providing, what their expected service levels are. Very easy to talk about, often very hard to get in place and get generally understood. But it helps if you understand what are negotiable, what are non-negotiable elements, and that the executive and senior management in both the client and the shared service organisation are fully on board and understand what that mandate is. That flows on then into being able to provide real clarity in the roles and responsibilities and decision-making rights of both organisations, the client as well as the provider, and opening people up to be able to challenge when things are brought up and demands are given that don't align with the outcomes of shared service or align with their broader objectives. So people aren't afraid to challenge the status quo, but to put their hand up and say, no, I don't think this is where we should be going, or here's the challenge that presents. I've mentioned before the clarity of service expectations and the services provided, and good definition, documentation of what the services are, what the service standards are. Often, and we see this in our own customer satisfaction surveying, that the lower the cost of the service can often relate to a lower standard of service, and which generates into a lower customer satisfaction rating. But if that's what the client and the provider have agreed, then that's something you've got to work through and work out how you manage that in the relationship. And I think that then flows into strong and ongoing change management and communication. Shared services, probably like a lot of projects, have a lot of effort into communicating and doing change management when they get set up, but then once they're up and running, that probably wanes away and needs to stay on the radar, stay on the agenda to make sure there is good ongoing communication between the client, between the shared service provider on what the services are, what the service levels are, what's changing, what's new, what's different, to help the staff in the client understand what the shared service provider is providing, and also to help the shared service provider staff understand how their clients are changing, so that we're not providing square boxes trying to fit into round holes and aligning expectations.